Hello, everybody out there in the internet world. George Elias here, George Elias Presents, and today I'm going to talk about some directors that have inspired me. But I'm not saying for any particular order. Like, don't take this as a top 10. If I talk about one person, that doesn't mean that I feel that they are better than this person or vice versa. This is in no particular order. This is just me talking about some directors that have influenced me. Um, but I am going to talk about them. What I will do is first I'm going to talk about what I call the Hollywood ones, like the major, big time directors that have inspired me, and then the ones I consider the independent filmmakers, the ones that they're successful in their own way, but they're still classified. At least I think so. In independent, anyways. They're not like that huge Hollywood thing uh, yet. I know they will be though, because they are extremely talented. And um, so yeah, I'm going to separate into the two categories. So here we go. All right, to start off with, I'm going to talk about the Hollywood directors. To start off with, I think it's no secret to anybody who knows me that a huge influence of mine is Alfred Hitchcock. Now, Hitchcock was and is to me, and everyone, he's the master of suspense because the man could really take you on a journey, and his films were like they're like those fine pieces of art, that just get more beautiful every other viewing, but not everybody would get them. Not everybody liked them. They weren't for everybody. As successful as he was and everything, I've I've noticed that his films really are not for everybody. They are so compelling and they are so just masterfully done and beautifully put together. Whether it be The Lodger, 39 Steps, Rear Window, Vertigo, the list goes on and on. The man has this ability to tell a story, to present it in a way that is just remarkable, is to this day has no rival, has no equal, if you will. I guess the biggest thing that I took from Hitchcock was his camera placement. I love the way where he would place the camera. It was absolutely beautiful. His just the way it was, and then of course his suspense. I mean, his bomb theory. If you don't know what that is, you should look it up. Whenever I get asked by people in regards to suspense, because I try to put a lot of suspense in my films too, and they ask me how do I get to the point. To that point, anyways, I always tell people use the Hitchcock bomb theory. I know a lot of people like to talk about the MacGuffin, the MacGuffin and things like that, which is great. But his bomb theory was fantastic. And I love also that Hitchcock fully embraced the celebrity. He fully embraced who he was. He knew people loved him. He knew people were really into his style and into who he is. And he didn't shy from it. He didn't try to be like, oh no, that's not. No. He fully embraced who he was. He knew who he was. And I'm sad that I'll never get to meet him because he died before I was born. But the man is fantastic, and I say is because his work still lives on. You could find a lot of his stuff. It's fantastic. My personal favorites, The Bird, Psycho, Rear Window, and Rope are fantastic. They are great. 39 Steps is really good too. The Lady Vanishes. Geez, the list goes on and on. Like I said, I can keep going. The Lodger, Dial M for Murder, Strangers on the Train. See, I could just keep going, but I'm not going to. I just want to say, pay my respects to Hitchcock. You are never forgotten. There's not another one like you. That is the master of suspense. And the man was amazing. Look up his bomb theory. Look it up. Next, I want to take a moment to talk about Stanley Kubrick. Where to begin? Stanley Kubrick was just amazing. His films, just like Hitchcock's, were like that masterful painting, that masterpiece. You look at it, it's just one of those paintings you look at it like, wow. But every time you go back and look at it, it's beautiful. Kubrick's films to me are the Rubik's Cube of films, as in Hollywood anyways, as in, you look at the Rubik's Cube and you think you've got it solved, but then you turn it over and, oh, there's another side that you've messed up on, or this side or that, you know what I mean? It just feels so, not everybody can figure those things out. And when you're able to figure them out and you master the Rubik's Cube, it's just fun for you. It's just fun for people, and that's how Kubrick's films are. They're very difficult. And there's people that watch them to this day that only now are starting to get things that they didn't get back then. You know what I mean? His films are fantastic. You know, from Lolita, 2001: A Space Odyssey, A Clockwork Orange, The Shining, Eyes Wide Shut. The list goes on and on. You know, the man is fantastic. What is the thing I mostly took from Stanley Kubrick? His cinematography. Holy crap! His films, even if you don't get the story, his films are beautiful to look at. He always used central framing, which, as you can see in this video, you see me and you see the bookshelves, the lamps. That is what they call central framing. I love Stanley Kubrick's cinematography. I love Stanley Kubrick's shots and his angles. As I loved Hitchcock's camera placement, and I loved Hitchcock's suspense, but there is nobody to this day who tops Stanley Kubrick's cinematography. Nobody. And I've seen so many directors come and go, you know, and in my opinion, his is the one films that you watch it, you know it's his. You know it is Stanley Kubrick's film. It is just stunning. His freaking cinematography, his film work is just absolutely stunning. They are beautifully made films, beautifully shot. His attention to detail was just fantastic. I wish I would have met him at least once just to have a conversation with him. Would have been the world. You know, he passed away, I believe, in 1999. Yeah, I think that's when it was. And I wish I could have met him, but, you know, at least his movies remain. And Stanley Kubrick was, is, and forever will be, just as Hitchcock was the master of suspense, Kubrick is the master of cinematography and framing. Again, central framing. You know, any of you who've seen my films know how much I love Kubrick's style of cinematography. It's a big influence, a humongous influence. Man, what an amazing artist. So again, if you don't know who he is, shame on you, and you should know. You should check him out. I highly recommend him. Trust me, it's worth it. Now I want to talk about Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan is I don't really even think needs an introduction, but if you don't know who he is, Christopher Nolan he's mostly known for his Dark Knight trilogy, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and Dark Knight Rises, which are fucking amazing film. I mean, the guy, in my opinion, revolutionized the superhero genre. Wow, incredible. But his other films are great too. You know, Insomnia is still one of my favorite films overall, not just Christopher Nolan, but films in general. Insomnia is fantastic. You know, Al Pacino and the late Robin Williams are fucking fantastic. The color schemes, and I'm colorblind. You know what I mean? But which I guess that's probably the one thing, if I had to say, that Christopher Nolan has really taught me, is how, because he's severely colorblind like me, from what I've heard, is he doesn't let that deter him. You know, he keeps doing it, and he's like, I'm going to focus on the colors I can see, which is kind of what I do. You know, I focus on the colors that I can see, and he's just, his style is so unique. And then he, you know, whereas everybody's turning to CGI and visual effects, he really limits that. He tries to stay focused on practical effects. Like, that is his main thing. He focuses on practical effects, you know, as much as he possibly can. You know, like if you see a room spinning, like in Inception or whatever, the room is actually spinning. When the truck flips over in The Dark Knight, that is an actual truck flipping over. It's not a toy or a model. You know what I mean? He tries to do as much practical and realistic things as he can. And that's something I try to do, you know, because in this day and age, I know that CGI and visual effects, special effects and things like that are now kind of everywhere. You can download software everywhere, and they're pretty much available to a lot of people. Maybe not on the Hollywood level, but there's a lot of things available now, you know, through Blender and things like that, After Effects, everything. And I don't use those at all. I try to use practical effects as much as I can because of my love for old cinema. And apparently I'm not alone, because look, Christopher Nolan is a multi-million-dollar or even billion-dollar director, and he still does it. If you check out his first film, his first feature, which is called Following, it's a black and white noir style film, and it is fan-fucking-tastic. He is such a diamond in the rough, especially in this modern era of directors. You know, because everybody's too busy trying to be the same. He's too busy trying to be himself. You know what I mean? Not even different, himself. And that is something I try to stick to as well, is be yourself, you know, because there's nobody what better person to be than yourself? You know what I mean? And next, I want to talk about Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler's kind of a newer director, and he doesn't have many films under his belt, at least that I know of. At least on that level. But he is definitely a force to be reckoned with. He has just his films. There's something to them. I can't really put my finger on it, but there is definitely something to them. From you got Black Panther, you got Creed, and then you also got Fruitville Station. I first heard of Ryan Coogler because I came across Fruitville Station. I was on Netflix one day and just looking around, and I came across it. Fruitville Station. I decided to look at. I read the little description it had. It said it was about a man who, it's the last 24 hours of his life. I might be butchering the name. I don't know if it's Fruitville or Fruitville Station. I call it Fruitville Station, like Fruit, like instead of Fruitville, I call it Fruit because I've heard it be called. I've heard it both ways, so I'm not really sure. Please forgive me if I'm butchering the name. But Fruitville Station is just really, really intense, especially the last like 30, 40 minutes of it. It's really intense, and it stars an up-and-coming actor that's just, we all know him now, Michael B. Jordan. Fantastic performance by Michael B. Jordan. It's a great film. You see how he's a guy who's made some mistakes, and he's trying to change his lifestyle. He's trying to be a better person, not just for himself and his woman, but for his daughter, especially his daughter. And just things go awry, and some things go wrong, and he ends up getting shot. I highly recommend checking it out. And then after Fruitville Station, Creed came out. I'm a big fan of the Rocky series, especially the first two, and Rocky Balboa. They're just something about those films that I love. And when I heard there was a spin-off coming out about Apollo Creed's son, Creed, Adonis, it instantly caught my attention. And I was like, cool. When it came out, I was like, cool. I've never seen Rocky on the big screen. This might be my only opportunity because Stallone's not getting any younger. So I was like, let me go check it out. Watched it, loved it, fantastic film. And then when I decided to read up on it, that's when I came across, Ryan Coogler directed it. Interesting. And they're good movies. They're really good movies. You can definitely tell he's got something to him that is really unique. Ryan Coogler is definitely somebody to watch out for. He's up and coming, and I definitely see some bright things in his future. And finally, on my directors of Hollywood, I want to talk about James Cameron. What can be said about James Cameron that hasn't been said about James Cameron? The guy is just great. Like his style of filmmaking, his cinematography, his action sequences, his story, to everything is fantastic. Like whenever people try to argue, well, actually nobody ever really tries to argue, but the rare times I do get somebody, I always ask them the same thing. It's like, name a bad James Cameron movie. Like, really sit there and think about it. Name a bad James Cameron movie. I mean, the guy has The Terminator, Terminator 2, True Lies, Avatar, The Abyss, Aliens, Titanic. You know what I mean? The list goes on and on. Like, James Cameron has done some grandiose, amazing things. But see, the thing I've always liked about James Cameron is that no matter how big or how or small the film is, it always feels personal. That's how I feel anyways. It feels like you can connect with it in a weird way. But it also feels grandiose. Like, even though it's something huge going on, you still feel that there's something even bigger going on around it. You know what I mean? It's like when you watch the first Terminator movie. It's a low budget, at least by Hollywood standards, neo-noir, horror, sci-fi action film. Great film, but the whole time you're watching and you're seeing this machine trying to kill this woman being protected by this man, you learn that there's a whole nother story of an impending future that is, man against machine. It's only seen in flashbacks, and you're like, whoa, and then part two, don't even get me started with that one. The action, that's still a fantastic movie. Terminator 2 Judgment Day, the special effects still hold up to this day. You see the two Terminators fighting each other, and it's just great action. But then at the same time, you're like, there's still this future thing going on that you don't see. So it's like, You know what I mean? And in Avatar, you see these people with these characters, and then this world, and then you're like, this feels like it's even bigger than it already is. Which I now come to find out there are more sequels that they're just not out yet. They haven't begun production, but like James Cameron has just this imagination that's insane. The guy makes really good sequels. I mean, look at you got Terminator 2, fantastic movie, and then you got Aliens. Aliens is a fantastic sequel. Ripley. Yeah. So, but yeah, James Cameron, the man is incredible. I'd love to work with him one day. Will that ever happen? I probably not. But hey, one can wish. One can imagine, dream, whatever you want to say it. So, and again, James Cameron, he's amazing. I don't really think I need to go into detail. The guy's awesome. And now I want to talk about the independent filmmakers, the ones that are not Hollywood yet, but they're not all the way at the bottom. They're still indie, but I feel that they have something to offer and to give just as much as the ones that I mentioned before in the Hollywood people. They're just fantastic. And I really think you should check them out. Okay, the first independent director I want to talk about is Shane Carruth. Now, Shane Carruth is, wow, he is quite the storyteller. His films, I guess the best way to say it is the way Stanley Kubrick's films are the Rubik's Cube of the Hollywood films. Shane Carruth's films are the Rubik's Cube of the independent world. His stuff is mind-boggling, complex as all hell, but man, they're intriguing, they're gripping, they're very fascinating films. I first stumbled across Shane Carruth by accident. Actually, I was late. I was up late one night, scouring through YouTube, watching some, videos of how to do like lighting and sound and, those little tutorials. And I came across one where they were talking about Shane Carruth. And then I noticed it through that. It led me to another one, then another one, then another one. It's like a lot of independent filmmakers were talking about him. And I was like, who is Shane Carruth? Like it caught my attention. So then I decided to check it out. Check him out. And the first film I watched from Shane Carruth was Primer. Primer is, oh man, arguably the most complex time travel film I've ever seen in my entire life. And I don't think there's anybody who can argue that, especially the ones who have seen the movie. It's weird because it's a realistic take, if that makes any sense, on an unrealistic thing. But I don't know. I guess the way the movie portrays time travel is it makes you think it could happen, and it's fantastic. It's low budget. I mean, it was made for like $6,000 or $7,000, and he was able to do something that's so different, so unique, and without an equal. And then his second film, Upstream Color, talk about a film you can't describe. You definitely can't compare it to anything. You can't pigeonhole it. It's really weird, but it is a beautiful film. Like Upstream Color visually is stunning. Visually is beautiful. The angles, the lighting, the cinematography, the color scheme, everything is just beautiful. And I highly recommend you check him out. He only has 2 feature films, at least to date. He is working on some more, I believe, but he's also been in other films. He has an independent film that you can find on YouTube. It's called Everything and Everything and Everything. It is a fantastic, complicated but fantastic short film. And he was in Swiss Army Man and other things that they're escaping me at the moment. But check him out. Shane Carruth is definitely somebody you need to check out, especially if you're an independent filmmaker. Check him out. Now I want to talk about Darious Britt. Darious Britt, also known as D4 Darius, is a YouTuber. He makes mostly it's kind of like how-to tips for the independent filmmaker. I've learned a lot from the guy. He is a fantastic teacher. His channel is great, growing every day, and he's a very good filmmaker, very engaging, very entertaining, very funny, His first feature film, Unsound, is also available on YouTube for free. It is a very good, very, very good film. Um, the documentary behind it, the making of Unsound is really good. Like if I have to be honest, I actually prefer the documentary, the making of Unsound, more than Unsound. Like Unsound is good, don't get me wrong, but the making of Unsound, like when you see all the things he went through and the struggles, with his mother, because I believe his mother has schizophrenia or bipolar, one of those. I think it's schizophrenia, and having to do that while going to college, while working your jobs, while doing your YouTube channel, and working on your feature film. Like, wow, you know what I mean? That's a burden I don't think anybody would want to take on. But he did it, and he did it like wonderfully, masterfully. The man is a genius, and I highly recommend you check out his work. You can find him on YouTube, D4 Darius or Darious Britt, however you want to look at him. Same person, different name. But yeah, he's awesome. Definitely, definitely somebody to check out. Next, I want to talk about James Rolfe. James Rolfe is quite the character. James Rolfe, I first came across James Rolfe one day. I was on YouTube, and I don't know why, I just started looking up things about the Ninja Turtles. I've always been a big fan of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and there was a review of the original game from the original Nintendo Entertainment System. Those of you who have played it know the struggle of that game. I know it personally. It is that game is hard. Anyway, but yeah, he did it under a character called the Angry Video Game Nerd, or actually at that time he was the Angry Nintendo Nerd. But then after a while, he became the Angry Video Game Nerd, and boy, was it hilarious. And he still does them to this day. They're still hilarious, some more than others. But since then, he's gone on to make his show, Board James, where he talks about board games. He's done movie reviews. He has Cinemassacre movie rental things, because that's the name of his company, Cinemassacre. He also has he actually has his first feature film. It's called The Angry Video Game Nerd Movie. But yeah, James Rolfe, he's definitely a jack of all trades. He's done so many things. I feel that he is kind of like proof that you can do a lot on YouTube and achieve a lot on YouTube. And just seeing where he first started and where he is at now is very inspiring to somebody like me, as well as other people who do this. And I mean, I would love to work with him one day. I'd love to meet him, even interview him one day, just talk with him. Bullshit. Can it happen? Yeah, I'm sure it can, but I don't know how. But hey, if there's ever a chance, that'd be great. But if not, I'm still gonna be a fan of what he does. Like, he is hilarious. You can find a lot of his stuff on YouTube. The guy is entertaining as all hell. I highly recommend you check him out. Definitely. Next, I want to talk about Vincent DiSanti. Vincent DiSanti is mostly known for his Friday the 13th fan film called Never Hike Alone, which is fantastic. If you haven't seen it, you might want to. I first came across Never Hike Alone. One night I was, because I like to do, I'm a filmmaker myself. And one day I was like, you know what? I'm a humongous Jason Voorhees fan. And I was like, maybe I should make a fan film about Friday the 13th. Why not? Let me check it out. But then I thought, before I dive into that, let me see if there's any fan films worth watching, worth a damn out there. And I noticed, I began to do I began investigating, and I noticed that universally many people considered Never Hike Alone the best Friday the 13th fan film. And I was like, is it that good? Really? Like, is it? So I figured, okay, let me see if I can find it. And yeah, it's actually available for free on YouTube. Watch it. I decided to sit down and watch it one day. I turned my phone off, and I just was like, I'm going to give all my attention to this film. Let me see, right? Wow. That's all I'm going to say. Wow. What a unique premise on the on the Friday the 13th thing, Forget everything you know about Friday the 13th. The typical stuff that you come to expect is completely thrown out the door. It is a unique, original take on the Friday the 13th character. You know, the acting is superb. The cinematography is amazing. The locations are wow. You know, and then there's actually a behind the scenes to it, the making of Never Hike Alone, and it's fucking great. Especially when you see everything he's been through. You know, his team. His team, his company, Womp Stomp Films, is very good. You know, and I still don't, to this day, don't know how the hell it happened, but I was able to meet him and sit down and interview him and talk with him. And Vin is a great guy, really nice guy. Um, you know, I know he's extremely busy, and the fact that he was able to give, you know, a guy like me a sit down interview, you know, we've worked together as well. You know, he starred in one of my films, and just the fact that you know, that's what I like is about him, other than his incredible work, is, you know, the guy was able to, you know, he's gotten to a certain point where he's got that recognition, but he doesn't let it get to here. You know, he'll still sit down and talk to you. He'll make time to talk with you and things like that. And plus he's a big Friday the 13th fan, so that, hell yeah, that's awesome. You know, but yeah, check him out. The guy's got some really good stuff. You know, they've also done he's also done a film called Imagine, which is hella funny. But check him out. His YouTube is Womp Stomp Films, and he's actually got a prequel to Never Hike Alone called Never Hike in the Snow coming out. I'm ready for that. Everybody I know who's watched Never Hike Alone is ready for that. Like, come on, Vinny, we're waiting for it. Come on, bro. So check him out, Vincent DiSanti. It's definitely somebody to keep an eye on. And lastly, but definitely not least, in the independent world, I want to talk about a man called Nicholas Grant. Now, Nicholas Grant, he owns and operates a company called Graveyard Pictures, which was formerly Graveyard Cinemas. Where to begin? This is another director that I have actually had the honor and pleasure of meeting, just like Vin DiSanti. I've met Nicholas Grant, and he is fantastic. He's definitely very talented. You can find his stuff here on YouTube. You know, I've worked with him a couple of times actually, and he's worked with me and whatnot. And I've learned so much from the time I've worked with him. The one thing I will give is I love his cinematography. His camera work is incredible. His lighting is unlike anybody else's. He is just very good at what he does. And Nicholas Grant, you know, I've been able to see a lot of his films. You know, from The Coven, which you have to check out. It's definitely worth checking out. You know, The Coven, XO, Dark 72, which I'm still waiting for you to release, Nick. You know, but yeah, you know, he's got another one called Experiment coming out, and the guy's got a lot of stuff. It's kind of hard to keep track, but Happy Anniversary is another one. It's really good. I like that one. But yeah, Nick Grant, what I like about him is he sticks to his guns. Like, if he wants to do something, he's going to do it. You know, come hell or high water. And I like how he's very determined to do what it is that he wants to do. If he has that vision, he's going to see it through no matter what. You know, the man is a gore fanatic. Like, if you like movies with blood and guts and scares and stuff, like horror films, the guy has got that down. He's got that down. Like, that's one of his strong points. The man loves that stuff, you know. I was able to work with him on a film called Can I Kill You? And that thing is great, you know. And it's not because I worked on him. It's even if I wouldn't have worked with him, I like, you know, the bloodiness, you know, and the lighting, and like the gore. It's you know, and I'm not even a big gore guy, but he makes it look good. So, but yeah, definitely check out Nicholas Grant. The guy's got a lot of talent. The guy's got a really bright future and big future ahead of him. And I'm not just saying that because he's an influence and somebody that I respect. I say it also, you know, because he's my friend. You know, like, you know, the man has got, you know, I say that, but I say that as both a friend, but also as you could say, colleague, as a contemporary, as I say it in every which way. You know, the man has got a lot of potential, a lot of talent, and if you haven't checked him out, you really should. You can find him on YouTube. Graveyard Cinemas or Graveyard Pictures. Either way, it's the same guy. So yeah, definitely check him out. I highly recommend it. So yeah, thank you so much for checking out this I guess you could say list of directors that have inspired me. And I highly recommend you check these guys out, man. They all have, incredible talents, incredible films, even the Hollywood ones that I mentioned, because I've met a lot of people who don't know who Hitchcock and Kubrick are, they only know the movies, they don't know the directors. And trust me, there's a lot you should check out. All these guys have a lot of talent and they're remarkable, they're unique in their own way. They have been a humongous influence to me as a director. Check out their work. It's definitely something you won't regret. All right. So I will see you guys next time. This is George Elias of George Elias Presents, and take care.